It's your girl, Kaye Plum, and you are now tuning into the new podcast, Okay Regarding That. We discuss everything from politics, entertainment, the latest news, and so much more. So now, let's get into it. Hey, what's up? It's your girl, Kaye Plum. You are now tuning into another episode of Okay Regarding That. We are here back with another episode, and I have a lovely, wonderful woman. You know, we celebrate in the month of March, and it's continued, okay? We have the beautiful and the lovely Miss Denese Clother. I want to say it the correct way.
Yes.
Was that correct?
You said it right. You said it right. Clother.
I would love for you to introduce yourself. Just give the people a little blurb about you, and then we'll get right into it.
Well, Denese, I am originally from the Bronx, but I currently live in the Midwest right now. And I'm a professional. I work in the corporate world, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I have my own, two of my own businesses. I have a event planning business called DMC Events, and I also have my home and a body product line that I currently sell through Etsy called Luminescence by D. Marie. Yeah. And so in addition to that, I am a professional. I work for a company by the name of Granger here in the Midwest. It's just, you and I have been knowing each other for a very long time now, Kaye.
Yes.
So
one time for social media, because I love the fact that we're able to do so much connecting, but even on a professional side, we're able to build, as women, we're able to build. And what better way than to highlight women in the month of March? As you know, today's episode is all about age. We're talking infertility. We're talking about what it is to start and build a family. Yes. And you and I have talked online, but we wanted to bring this as an episode because I think this can help a lot of women, especially because we're in this season, right? Where it's all about us, but we want to really embody what that means, right? What it means to really empower each other. And I feel like we're in a season where, although we're saying one thing, because we know everybody don't do the whole empowerment thing, but we know that when it comes to building a sisterhood, we have to be willing to be transparent. We have to be willing to share information, but we have to also be able to approach things with a non-judgmental approach as well as we get into certain topics that may be sensitive for women, right? As well as, just the legacy to come. Because a lot of us, women collectively, some of us have children, some of us don't. And I think this brings us to the topic of today because I'm a married woman with 2 children. Right. My girl, Denese, who I've known for a long time does not have children. And I want to kind of open that up. Right. Because you actually brought this to me. So I want to let the people know, just from a different perspective, what it's like. Right. What it's like. So I want to kind of go back a little bit. Right. Because the high school era was like our era where we were groomed different than the millennials today, different than the generational Z group today. Right. You were either groomed to kind of go to school, go to college, and kind of keep your legs closed, right? And then, depending on culturally, because I find this a lot with my friends who many of us, we grew up in the Caribbean culture, we're groomed a little differently. It's like get the education, all of these things. So by the time we get into either our mid-20s or early 20s, those shifts begin. And individually, we all have different life experience. So in essence, how was that for you? Did you feel like you had a similar upbringing in high school?
Yeah. So here's the thing with me, and it was definitely like my mom had me and my sisters very young, right? So that was something that was what she was not going to do as far as, my mother was concerned. Yeah. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, my older sister was the first of us to have children. She was about 17 or 18 when she had my niece, right? So she was still in high school. Yeah. That was not something that went over very well in my household, right? Okay. At the end of the day, the family embraced it. We did what we needed to do to, come together and take care of each other. But it wasn't something that was like, you're not going to be out here bringing no babies into this house when, hello, we all struggling trying to keep it together, right? Yes. So it was different for me. I by the time I was in high school, it was you do what you got to do to make sure you have taken care of yourself. You go to college, you get your degree, you do whatever it is you have to do to make sure that you are able to take care of yourself and your home, whatever that home may look like. Right. Yeah. So, children wasn't something that was on my radar. It was about building my professional life. It was about getting out of school. It was about, and doing it on a level that was not just on a mediocre level. You had to make sure that you was at least at the minimum getting a B when you was in school, right? When you need to focus on your school instead of focus on, as they would say, focus on boy and everything there, right?
You better not focus on man. You better not focus on your studies.
Exactly. Focus on your studies. And so the way I grew up was I just looked at the way the reaction was to certain things. Yeah. And if it wasn't a reaction that I thought that would make my mom proud or make my stepdad proud or make my family proud, I went in the other direction. Right? So it was like, no, you're going to do what you have to do to take care of you and take care of your family, however that family ends up unfolding. And so what happened was, once I got into my mid-20s, all of a sudden conversation changed. Then it started with when are you going to start having your kids? Are you next? The conversation changed, and that became the thing. It was like, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Right?
Did it hit you by surprise? Because I feel like some mothers and fathers, because I got this from both, it's like they feel as though your eggs is starting to lose its validity at like 22. Right after you graduate college, it's like, what y'all do? It's like a lot of that kind of talk. Yeah. So you got that same talk in your early 20s as well.
Yeah, because at that point I was in a stable relationship. Yeah. It was somebody who I thought was, going to be lifelong and all of that. And it was like, oh, this is a perfect situation. You're in a relationship. It's looking to everybody like it's going to move into we're going to build a family together and we're going to get married and all that other stuff. And it started to be that it was like, okay, what do I want to do next? Right. Yeah. I was working. I was making good money for my age. Yeah. I was still kind of like figuring out like, what the lifelong career goals and all that stuff is. I was in school, but I wasn't living at home. I was paying my own rent. I was taking care of myself. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, you got that part down. The next part is
right.
When am I going to start having some picnic?
That's right. Yeah. And it feels pressuring. It just hearing it, you feel like, oh my God, I need to get a partner. I need to get someone. So I can only imagine. And this is after you feel as though you can't even celebrate the so-called achievement of going to college and getting a good job. It's like, God, give me like 2 years or give me 3 years. It is pressure though. Wow.
And by this point, my older sister, I had already had, by the time I was about 25, my older sister had already had her second child. Right.
Same here,
so it's like now they want to know, okay, who is going to give me another grandchild? And being the second oldest, it's only right that I'm looked upon, right?
Yeah.
But I also was in a very comfortable place in my relationship where we made the decision together to start a family. It was something that we both wanted, right? And unfortunately, it took us 2 years to get to that point. That was when I started to realize that this isn't something that's going to be easy for me.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
This is something I'm going to have to work really, really hard at if it's what I really want. And so 2 years of trying, 2 years of doctors and everything else. And it got to the point where it was starting to put pressure on our relationship. So we made a decision that we just weren't even going to try anymore. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Right. And funny
But did you feel that you was too young to want to start having children? Like, even though we're told that that's the rearing age to begin, did you feel in your heart like, I'm just not ready to? Maybe I'm just doing it because I'm pressured.
No, I was actually ready.
Oh, you
I was ready.
Okay.
I was ready. I was like, when we started, I was 25.
Yeah.
On my 27th birthday, I found out that we had actually conceived.
What?
Yeah. Okay. And it was one of those things that was like, oh my God, we finally stopped and the gates opened and the clouds parted and God said, this is your time. Right. And it was a lot of excitement because it was something that, my family had been hoping for me and wanting for me and all that
first
stuff.
shower, girl. You already saw the vision. It was going to be huge. The whole island is coming out.
But baby, I had already done 2 for my other 2 sisters. So I mean, for my older sister. So I mean, right. I knew what I was doing. I had this.
Yes.
So then, as the process went along, it just so happened that me and both of my sisters all ended up being pregnant at the same time.
Wow.
So this was like
awesome.
Oh my, right?
Yeah.
At first, it was like they didn't want to say anything because they felt like they were stealing my joy, and it was finally my moment.
This was your first. Yeah, this was your first and theirs. Yeah.
Right. And it also ended up being my younger sister's first.
Oh,
so, wow. There was a lot of jubilation around all of this stuff kind of happening, right? And unfortunately, 11 weeks in, I miscarried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was tough because it was like, it's the one thing that I've been wanting for so long, right? Mm-hmm. Something that I worked so hard for. Finally get it. And once again, out of my grasp. And that actually, after that situation, they always tell you if you get pregnant the first time, it's really easy for you to get pregnant again after that. Yeah. So you have to be careful if you're not ready to have another child yet.
Yeah.
Not my case.
Okay.
Not my case. It just became more and more difficult. And it ended up being the straw that broke the camel's back for my relationship. Wow. Me not being able to conceive again after the miscarriage was pretty much what wrapped that up in a bow that this is done. And it took a really, really big toll on me. It ended up having, effects of me being depressed, anxiety, and all of that stuff, and just making it really hard for me to connect with people. Oh, child, I don't even know.
You need to breathe that out. That's a lot. Yes, girl, breathe that out. Because one of the things I was going to ask you, as you're breathing, breathe it out, because that was a lot. And, I'm always, when I'm speaking with women, I'm always expressing to them that it's okay, girl. You have to release those 5 emotions. And, the biggest one is the ability to cry and release that. It's a breath of fresh air. And it's your truth. And it's nothing shameful about the truth. Yes, there is pain. And as long as I've known you, we all go separate ways. We know after high school, we go to different colleges, all of that. But it's so good to connect. It's so interesting because although we're mainly on like social media, we live in different states, we don't get to have like these deep seated conversations, woman to woman, because if I didn't know you, right, and I was just meeting you, the first thing that women normally do, especially when we find out, like, how old are you, is we like, oh, how many children you got?
How many kids you have?
Yeah, we assume that we know, or I know that this person, because I'm thinking of them from maybe the past, or if I met them newly, I'm like, oh my God, they have the same vibe as me. So I know they're gonna, and if they don't, I've heard this from women. It's like, especially my friends who don't have children, they'll say, it's so kind of like sometimes like shadeful, when they feel as though you're expected to have these other woman accomplishments, and people don't know that sometimes your backstory has impacted your current. Your present is a reflection of your backstory. What I was going to ask was that, because I saw this personally with my sister, me and Onika. We were pregnant with our first child together in the same year. So the year I had my daughter, she had her son. That was epic because I think in, high school, people thought that we were like twins. We had the locks going on, and I was very happy because when you mentioned the number 26 or 27, I had my daughter I think it was like 4 or 5 months before I turned 27. So it was the same thing. Like although my husband and I were together for some time, it was like I wanted to work after the whole college. I wanted to kind of get myself in that space where I knew once I settled, it was going to be okay. But even during the relationship, I watched my family at functions. They were like, what y'all do? Y'all bust blanks? You're not push it up in there. And it was just kind of like, no, we're not doing that. The hop-off game got to be strong. Okay. Ladies, if you're a writer, you got to hop off, and, cause you find that even in exclusive relationships, sometimes, right, you not wearing the condom, let's be real, but only if you're exclusive, audience, only if you're exclusive. If your man is, out there and you out there, you want to strap up. But yeah, I found that, those moments were pressuring, but once I would have my own one-to-one, it would be like, If you're not ready, I'm not ready. And I love that because I never wanted to be rushed. However, I do know what it's like to not want to at the moment, but then your mate wants it at that moment. And that was something that my husband at that time, he was like, you're very business oriented. You're not showing me any signs of maternal instincts. I mean, I look at him like, what? Like what? What you mean? What you mean? Right. But I realized that in dating and living separately, you got to remember that's pretty much the visual that a man sees. Because even though you intimate with them, they don't know your long-term goals. Because a lot of us was doing a lot of surface talk. You're not deep talking with somebody unless them serious. They have to be serious, But it's like, what happens when you do build up that connection? You do build that foundation. And then in the case of this, there is a miscarriage. And then you don't even have time to heal the womb up. Because first of all, you're hurting, but you want it to come back. You want that child to come back. And I faced that with my siblings where I went on and I had my son and I kind of felt like I had the pack. My older sister, Tina, she, same like what you said with your older sister, she had her first child when she was 18. So it was like a pattern of what my mom did. And then I felt like I was the one breaking that because I was like going to the end. I'm going to go when I'm ready. But it's just like what you said. I wondered if what would happen if I couldn't conceive? Because one of the things that women don't talk about, and this will be for you to answer as well, is that, when I was asked, like, now you have to have a kid and we need to plan, I could not get pregnant. And a lot of people would think the way I show myself and stuff, I couldn't get pregnant. And I'm not talking about, no, I was trying this month. No, I'm talking about when I realized that I was already dating my dude for 7 years, and then when it was time to plan, I still couldn't get pregnant. And I never forget, I was speaking with a herbologist. I had went to the doctor and they were talking about, oh, you have a fibroid on your ovaries. And I was like, ovaries? Once I heard the S sound, I said, excuse me? So they explained that, when it's on top of your ovaries, and this is for women in particular, it's harder because when you have your menstrual and then coupled with that, maybe it's the way you're eating, right? Maybe it's the not exercising. A lot of that impacts and it exacerbates your fibroids. So your fibroids will increase and get swollen, and it will make it hard for you to conceive. It would make it hard for you to actually do the normal things that you're supposed to be doing in preparation of having a child. So because I felt like I was a very busy person, I realized, like, wait a minute, the science to this would be to handle this part first. I juiced, I cleansed, I went to see a herbologist. My mother is in holistic practitioner. And let me tell you, I can honestly say, Denese, I did that for 4 months. I cut out dairy. I did all of these things. The doctor told me, women who are young and under 25 cannot conceive if they have fibroids. So they tell, especially Black women, burn it off. And my family is against all of that radiology and all of that stuff. Long story short, I did the sabbatical for 4 months, went back to the doctor. They said, we don't see no fibroids. I did a sonogram. They couldn't see it. So I did shrink in size tremendously. And then by the time I got to my 6th month, they couldn't see it. 9th month, couldn't see it. My 13th month, I started to say, okay, I guess I'm going to just live this lifestyle. And that's how I incorporated being the pescatarian, but now it was veganism. Long story short, the following year, just not even thinking about it, I became pregnant with my first child. So I felt like it wasn't about planning. So I wanted to ask you, because of what you said, did you have a moment to pause before you felt like you was pressured to kind of have a second child? Or did that, like you said, when you talk about going into the depression, how long was that period for you before you felt like, okay, I know what my next steps would be if I decide to have a child again?
So it was actually immediately after. Okay. Believe it or not, it's kind of been one of those things that I'm like, that I've been pressing the pedal about, right? Mm-hmm. Any opportunity, any relationship. And to be honest with you, I haven't had a lot of long-term stable relationships where I can be like, it's just been like boom, boom, boom. That definitely has not been it for me. You know me, I'm a late bloomer. So everything that happened for me happened way after everybody else.
That's right.
You know, and it was fine because in the moment you're not really thinking about it.
Yeah.
But it's always been one of those things where I was like, when it's time, it's time. And then every time after that I'd be around people or family members and they want to know, when are you going to have a child? When are you going to have a child? When are you going to have a child? Yeah. It's kind of like, I started saying, you know what, when God's ready for me to have one, I will have one. That's used to be my answer for everybody. Yeah. Because it was like, I got tired of the question. I got tired of hearing it. I got tired of the expectation. Yeah. And it's in those comments, it's a constant trigger. It's a constant reminder of what you lost and you haven't been able to gain back. Yeah. And so let's just say, I got to the point where I really needed to sit down and deal with it. Yeah. I really needed to, lay it all on the table and come to the conclusion that this may not happen for me. Okay. And it's been 13 years of back and forth with myself of, I really want this. It's obviously it's not for me. Just back and forth, just battling with myself because it's like, what's wrong with me? Nothing. That's how I feel.
Yeah, but that's how you felt.
And that's how you felt. It's like, what's wrong with me? Why is this something that I am not able to do? Yeah. And it's heartbreaking to constantly feel that way. And when you're actually actively trying and getting that disappointing test that comes back negative, or you get the, oh my gosh, I'm late, and you get the excitement, and then couple of weeks later, it's like, oh, hey, girl, my bad, I was late.
Right.
I'm here now. Right. And so it's a cycle that as a woman, you deal with. And I don't think people actually, unless they're actually in it, they don't get it. Yeah. They don't see it. They don't understand it. And about 2 years ago, when I actually started, dating my current boyfriend. Yeah. That was something that I said from the very beginning is I want to try. I want this. Like, this is something that I want for myself, for my future. And, when you have to put those kind of caveats, when you're starting something new with somebody, it's a gamble, right? Because if you really feeling somebody and you like them, and then you come to them when you kind of throw this at them, it's a gamble because it can go either way. Yeah. It can go the way of, I want the same thing and I want to try for us to do this together. Yeah. Or it could be, yeah, shorty, I don't know about that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you have to deal with whatever the outcome is, as long as you're able to live your truth. And I want to say something to what you were talking about earlier about, transparency and being able to be honest with yourself and honest with others. I am a very, very private person. And I feel like as I've gotten older, I've become even more and more private. Okay. Especially with things that I feel are really close to the chest, right? Things that I'm like, I don't need nobody having no comments on. I don't need nobody having no judgments about. Like, this is for me. This isn't for everybody else to make a talking point, right?
That's right.
And I had a conversation with one of my best friends just a couple of days ago, and she said to me, what you're dealing with, what you're going through, I know how private you are. Yeah. But think about somebody else that you could probably help just by talking about what you've gone through or what you've dealt with or what you're currently, right? Yeah. Wading through the waters with. Yeah. And I had to take a step back and really think about it. And even, reaching out to you and, saying, hey, have you thought about having a conversation about this? It's a big deal for me.
Listen, out of all of the friends, I would have been not expecting that from you. But the thing is that, but the opposite effect, I want to tell you, even with doing a podcast, I can, Kaye can talk and I can over talk. But It's not that. I love dialogue. I love dialogue. And I feel like when people want to hear perspectives, they also want to hear it from a different lens, especially when sometimes through a visual, it looks like this person got it all together and this person got everything that I'm looking for. But behind the surface, like, no, there's layers and there's sometimes challenges. And I show people that, I don't care if I see something as beautiful as the rainbow. I know to make all those colors come to light, there was some work there,
Yeah.
So I think from that angle, I'm always looking and I'm having more empathy. I'm empathetic to women who say, hey, I've done this, but then now I'm at a place where I'm not doing the trying.
Right.
I'm just done. I'm more empathetic to women who said, you know what, if I reach this point in my life and I don't have X, Y, and Z, then I'm just not going to try for X, Y, and Z. Because why? Everybody's household is different. My husband wanted 4 children. After the second one and actually seeing what it's like to really plan, prepare, and provide, you're going to switch it up a little bit. You know what I mean? You're going to hit me with the red stop. And I also felt like the pressure of my dad, because different than even other women who actually get told to have big families. I come from a big family, but yet, so does my husband. But guess what? When it was time for us to build a family, we cut that number down. Right, based on affordability. And I think that sometimes it's also, like you said, women are always thinking about this projection of the world, because why? Especially Black women in particular, there's such a close watch on us, but there's also so much pressure on us. And then there's something about that word when we say you a strong Black woman, it's like you can deal with anything, you can go through anything, and you're supposed to be smiling through it all. Nah, baby, we hurt. We go through things, and sometimes we want a hug, we want some love, and we want some empathy, because not all of us get to have that. All of y'all can have kids and all of y'all got the body and all of y'all got no. And we've been screaming, we're not monolithic, but we now need to say no in actions too. We're not all doing the same thing. We're not all moving the same way, and culturally we grow up different. And I wanted to say to you, there is so much women, Denese, and I don't have them on the forum because I wanted to do a one-to-one. And, respectfully, the reason why we don't mention names with other women is because, a lot of women, believe it or not, they don't feel comfortable speaking out. That's another thing too with us. You'll be surprised to think that as shy as you was back in high school, right? You are so more vocal in your business aesthetic. You are so more vocal in how you deal with your clients. Sometimes I see what you do and you'll shoot me something. I'm like, look at this one. You want to make, but we grow, we evolve. And a part of that evolvement is knowing that when you meet a mate and when you meet somebody, like you said, at this time now, you got to be like, wait a minute. Okay. I don't want to be, a person restricting my thoughts, but I want to be somebody that's intentional. And being intentional is, hey, if we're going to be exclusive in dating and we got some conversation around what we want to see long term, then I'm going to hit you with this family conversation maybe now, maybe not on date 1, but maybe during the week if we have date number 2 or 3, we have to get to know folks. What did your current boyfriend say? And where are you now in terms of the trying and stuff?
Yeah. Okay. So, when we talked about it, it was something that he also wanted, but then life happens and we actually like broke up for a little bit.
Okay.
And, in the time that we had broken up, in my mind, right. I'm once again single. Who knows when and if I'm going to meet somebody else.
That's right.
So if I want this baby, what am I going to do to get it? So I started working with the fertility doctor.
Okay.
And I started the process of figuring out how I was going to make this dream happen. And I started, it was all of the tests, all of the giving blood, all of the poking, all of the prodding, all of the going through everything, only to find out that not only did I actually have fibroids, I also had like polyps that were blocking that were blocking the my fallopian tube so that it was making it hard. So I started going through this like stage of irregularity as far as my menstrual cycle was going. And I started to freak out, like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And so I tried, when we were still together, I actually tried like taking like the hormone pills that they give to like get you to ovulate and to get you back on regular. And I did that a couple of times to see if I could actually conceive naturally. Didn't work. Okay. And once that didn't work, my gynecologist was actually testing me to make sure that I wasn't premenopausal.
Okay.
Turns out that's not my problem either.
Okay.
So it was like, okay, so these are not the problems. So what is wrong?
Yeah.
And so as you get older, like once you hit 35, every year after the age of 35, you start to decrease the amount of eggs that your body produces.
That's right.
Which makes it harder for you to be able to conceive because now your body's not producing like you were in your 20s and your early 30s, where it was easier for you to be able to just pop them out. And you know what I'm saying? And so add that to the fact that I'm producing less eggs. So, and then I'm not getting my menstrual regularly. And then my hormones are all over the place. It was time for me to see a professional. So during the course of the time that we broke up, that's when I started to see a professional because in my mind, I'm going to do this regardless.
You were set. You were set.
I'm going to do this
all
regardless.
I got to do is go to the clinic and it's going to get done.
I'm going to do this regardless. Let me tell you about the naivete of all of that thinking. Because when you're going into these things and you don't know what you're actually preparing to put yourself through and to think about all the different parts of it that you have to think about, you can easily become disheartened by all of it. So I ended up having to have surgery to remove my polyps. I ended up having to be on hormones and all this other stuff. And then it was like, okay, now you need to find a donor. Lo and behold, we ended up getting back together. And I was like, okay, so now I got my donor, I'll be good. Yeah. Once again, pause. Not going to happen that way. Not for Denise. I like nothing ever is conventional for me.
Oh
ever,
my God.
In my life. Nothing in my life has ever been conventional.
Okay.
So out of respect for him, I can't get into too much detail about, how that all that decision came about and all the discussions and all that other stuff. I can't really get into all of that out of respect for him. But I am back to the point of figuring out getting a donor. So I'm working with like the cryo banks and all that other stuff. And the toughest part of all of this is that when you get from one point in the process to the next point, there's some kind of a halt. And the reason why there's a halt is because the financial responsibility that comes with going through
this process,
whether you have medical insurance that covers a part of it or not, is not.
It's a bag plus more bags. Okay.
It's a few bags. And if it's not something that you're financially prepared for, there's many, many blockades, which I've come up upon all of them.
Okay.
Just to be able to purchase sperm, it's $1,000 a vial, and you need to have more than one if you're going to go through a full
speak process. On that, because I had saw when Gabrielle Union was talking about the decision to go with the surrogate versus the whole in vitro process. And it seems so similar in when she had spoke about like just that she was tired of feeling defeated, right? Like even personally. Yes. And then when you think about women who are very career driven, and a lot of us are go-getters, right? It's sort of like, yeah, we believe in the philosophy of having it all, but we also know that when it's time to do something medically, we have, as women, we got to know how to pace ourselves, balance, have rest, right? So I was just thinking about like when you said like having the surgery with the polyps, because I recently had someone that I know, they had a removal with the fibroids different than myself. And we was talking about the age difference, doing that now versus if you, like you said, if you were in your 20s. So I want you to break that down. Like when you make the decision to do the in vitro process, and then you're saying as a woman saying, you know what, it's not going to be my partner, but I'm willing to go about it this step, you know, the breakdown and what you're now having to gear up yourself for on this next journey to get that desired result. So break that down. Yeah.
So once you've gotten past the hurdles of, okay, now I don't have any more blockages, right? Now there's nothing else holding me back as far as my body, my physical form is concerned. It's been a slew. And when I say a slew, I think my doctor called in about 30 different medications for me to take. Okay. The medications by themselves, $25,000. Wow. Yes. Purchasing donor sperm. Yeah. For in vitro, because there's different prices based on what process you're going through. Is it going to be IVF? Is it going to be where they just kind of, you get the sperm and they just kind of, you know, put it in you when it fertilizes on its own? It's different because I guess they have to store it differently. Yeah.
So hold up, right there. So if you had your partner on board with this process, right? Is that price minused off, right? The price of the IVF? Okay.
The price of no. The price of the IVF by itself? No, that's not.
That's just going to still be the price.
That's going to be the price regardless if that's the process that you have to go through. For me, because of my age, because of the way that my body is currently producing eggs and everything that's involved as far as my physical body is concerned. Yeah. And this is what my doctor told me. I actually cannot get pregnant at this point in my life without the help of a doctor. Yeah. And the older I get, the harder it becomes because I'm not producing eggs as much as I was in my 20s and early 30s. Yeah. And so that's the only process that I actually can go through, because they need to make sure that in addition to going through the IVF process, I also have to go through the process of having any embryo that is actually made has to be genetically tested to make sure that it's actually a viable pregnancy, and I'm not giving my child any kind of Down syndrome or anything like that, because those things become more and more a factor as you get older. Wow. So if it's not viable, they won't go through the process of the insemination. They just won't do it for your sake and for the child's sake. And if you're going to spend all this money, you might as well bring a healthy child into this world.
No pun intended. It's just what it is.
So there's also genetic testing, and that's before there is even implantation. And then there's also all the numerous visits to the doctor after that, because they need to make sure that you can actually continue this process once they've done the insemination. So lo and behold, I'm now again at a crossroads, right? Because I did not prepare myself for this financial part of it, and not thinking in my mind, this is what I'm going to have to go through, because I'm like, please, when it's time for me to have a baby, I know I'm going to be I just knew. Lies.
Okay. So this is going to be the year. Yes.
Every year was going to be the year, girl. Every year.
Yes.
And now it's just like,
when is it going to come? And I got to have this money ready, because that's another thing too. I was going to say, a lot of women don't understand that even making big decisions medically, when you go with it alone and not with the help and the financial help of a partner, that's all you. That's all you. Whether you got one job, two job, three job, that's all you. And these doctors are not playing. They want their money up front. They want their money before the final step. They're not playing. And it's in clear print. It ain't in no big words.
It sure is not. It's very clean and very, very plain. And here's what it is. And there's no kind of like in between. So for me, I've actually been going at this a little bit differently. And I've looked into the grants that are out there that I might be able to get. Turns out I don't qualify.
Because you make too much?
Of them,
they feel you make too much?
It's the money. I make too much money. And then a lot of them are geared towards same-sex couples. And they get first dibs in those situations. And you know, a lot of the times it's like, and baby, the application process is just like, oh, child, I ain't trying to do this.
Talk about that.
It's like the application is not just a simple, very extensive. And you just some of them, you have to be on special programs. You have to be in special parameters. The application is long. You have to get affidavits. You have to get people to speak for you on your behalf. It's so much stuff that has just become so daunting that you're just like, you know what, forget it.
And even prior to the part where you sign off for the IVF, aren't you supposed to do like the whole like the biopsy and the making sure that you're good too? Because they check your blood levels, they check all of those things. Yeah. Because I know, I know two women in particular that went through the process and both had children as a result of it. But you know what? I never asked questions about like the money part. You know, like, again, just showing that empathy. I just didn't want to pry as much, you know, but being happy, very happy, because I feel as though, and this leads me to my next question, you know, becoming a mom. And then, you know, when you are living amongst your sisters and your siblings and you're watching people have their parental moments, you know, you want your kids to grow up with their cousins and vice versa. Right. And I was going to ask you, because one of the things I always ask is, you know, would you take another alternative if you found that, you know, okay, I've done all of this, but I don't want to wait as much? Because there's some women who have stopped and they may have gone, okay, I know one woman in particular, she went and did the adoptive route. But I think it was because she felt like once she passed the 4-0, she didn't want to do it anymore. I have another who at that 4-0 had one. So, you know, my sister, Onika, you know Onika, she similar thing. And I can share it because she's very open about that as well. But the similarity she had when she got with her second person, she wanted to have a kid. And after 11 years, it was like kind of like, can I even have a kid again? And when she did, the super excitement, had a miscarriage. And then it was like, let's heal up the womb. Let's not think about it. And just lo and behold, she ended up becoming pregnant. And I was more the questioner about, I felt like I was my parents in them. I was like, you're going to do this again at this age? And I loved how she allowed me to see like, this is what I want. And voila. So I'm so happy to hear that you are still in it. You are going forward with it. And yes, and we want to be able to celebrate the victory, because I think it's like, we need to stop putting our own timelines and stop clocks on us. So what if you want to go do that right now? If you're ready, you're prepared, and you're willing to put in the work, so be it. Everybody's is different, you know? So I love that. I love that.
So
you feel like you would not do the surrogate thing if this didn't work out, or you are like just more set and determined on this?
So a couple of things. So I've been blessed with one nephew and 5 nieces. And, you know, ever since high school, those are my babies.
Yes.
Regardless of those,
you are the quintessential.
Those are my babies.
Auntie.
Okay. Those are my babies. And believe it or not, my sister at 41 conceived. Wasn't even thinking about it.
Right.
And my niece is getting ready to be a year old next week. So I have a 1-year-old niece at this point. Right. And though they're all my blessings, and I love them just as if they were my own. Yeah. And so for me right now, and I have thought about whether or not I want to adopt, or I've never thought about surrogacy just because I don't know.
Yeah.
If I'm going to spend the money to have a child, it's either already going to be here or I'm going to do it myself. Like those are the 2 lanes that my brain is functioning in. Right. And I've gone back and forth about whether or not adopting is the right thing for me. just because I'm very much so it's mine in those essences. And a lot of the times, there are families that are still attached to those children. And it's heartbreaking to make a decision to pull them away from that, or to make it so that they have no connection to the rest of their heritage or whatever the case may be. So that's something that I've actually been thinking about, but it's not as close to my goal as me being able to have a child on my own. So because of the fact that, and I'm sharing this with you because, you know, we're just having this open conversation, and I actually haven't put it out there yet, but I actually started a GoFundMe, which is because it was
another thing too. Black women act like we don't like to ask for help, whether we go get it or not. I tell people all the time, feeding the babies and trying to stay good in this pandemic. Sweetheart, plug your GoFundMe.
Yeah. So I actually started the GoFundMe, and I actually have to give props to my best friend Dana, who was kind of like, what's the worst that could happen? Okay, so nobody donates, nobody supports.
Yeah.
So what? You lived in your truth.
Yeah.
And it took me I shed tears.
You're too prideful, gal. You're too prideful.
Because you know what? When you grow up a certain way and you see certain things, and you see how people behave.
Yes.
That's just not going to be for me. I'm not rocking that way.
And you feel personally betrayed because we're taught to, love on those that love on you, right? Your family is everything, but sometimes the closest ones to you. I always tell people, honey, when we read in that Bible too, we got to know that, there was gems in the Judas story. There was gems about that Last Supper. We don't sometimes speak up, even if it's for our own good, because we feel like we'll be ridiculed for even asking because people see you already in a good light. You're working. Yes. You don't look like your credit good, right? It's like, you don't need $1. Yes, you do. I need $1 for this next business that I can't save for because my current job is paying for my livelihood. Yes, I need a GoFundMe, And I definitely will support that. And, when you send me the link, I'll put it in here as well. But yes, absolutely. I think that's a wonderful thing to do. And like I said, this was so informative because a lot of women don't know that, it's the same effect, whether you're going to do dental procedure, cosmetic procedure, like a lot of these things they cost moolah.
Yes.
But they also put your body and your emotional and your everything psychologically, it's like you're under this I don't want to say attack, but you do get overwhelmed by it all because now you're undergoing a process, and then you have to still show up for work, show up for the family, right? Show up for everybody else. I'm sure you're still showing up in your relationship with this understanding that this is a separate task that I'm journeying, but I'm doing it while also keeping everybody happy and doing what they say strong Black women do, right? We keeping the balance, but we're managing the household and we're acting like we're all together. And sometimes we're not all together. We're just not. We're just not. And I love that because, Denese, even the work that you do with like the event planning and stuff. I mean, I was going to ask you too, when it comes to this continuum of when you see women who may say to you, even after you do the most exquisite events and decor for them, and then they turn around, and they go, you should have a baby. You should have, are those trigger moments? Because I always say to women, like, what is our boundaries? Like, what are we not supposed to say to a woman who doesn't have a child? Or what is some tips? I would like you to give some lasting tips to women, just so we can be more empathetic to others.
Yeah. So the thing is that if a woman has a child, trust and believe, they will let you know.
Okay.
You don't need to ask. You don't need to, because a mother having that pride about having their little person that look like, I have a dog and I tell everybody in the world about him. Nobody ever have to ask about my little Oliver. Okay. I will share pictures. You will know it's not a secret. Right. And I think, and I have a funny story to share with you about that. There was a point in time when I first moved to Illinois, and I was on the dating scene or whatever. Yeah. And a friend of mine introduced me to this guy. And, you know, we're having small talk, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, so do you have kids? I'm like, no. And his response was, why not? I said, because
so stern. Okay.
His response was, and my response was, because I don't have, but you're 30 something years old. What are you waiting for? And it's like,
what kind of Q&A session is this at the bar?
And I said, no, we were at my friend's.
Oh, okay.
So it was a little bit more intimate.
Okay.
And so I was just like, well, what do you mean? He was like, you're 35. No. I was about 37 at that point. Okay. You're 37 years old. You don't have any kids. What's wrong with you?
Oh my God.
And I said to him, I said, nothing's wrong with me. Well, why don't you have kids? And he kept going. I said, you know what? This isn't something that I just go off sharing with people, but it's not that. He's like, well, you can't have kids. I said, no, I don't think that's what the case is.
Right.
And he was like, so why don't you have kids? I said, I had a miscarriage at some point in my life and it just hasn't happened again yet. Yeah. And at that point, he realized he put his foot in his mouth because you do not know what somebody else has gone through to be able to come to this point, to even be able to sit down and have a conversation with you and try not to be offended by the badgering when it comes to this stuff. Yeah. So it's like, don't assume that somebody doesn't want children unless they tell you they don't want children. Don't assume that somebody can't have children because your assumption may actually be the truth and it could actually be something that's very hurtful to them.
Yeah.
The thing is this, when it comes to motherhood and all that other stuff, all these expectations that we have about who should be able to and who shouldn't. And I know we can all fall into this because I have done it before where it's like, well, why is that person having a child and not me? How are they having another kid and not me? Like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not? Like, and you take all these things in on yourself and it's overwhelming.
You have been at your point where you was like upset with God when it came to that?
Oh,
it was more
baby. Me and God ain't been on good terms for a minute because I'm trying to understand what the problem is.
Yes.
It's like,
I've heard that when in speaking to women, I would say, where are you spiritually? And they would be like, I'm so mad with myself. And sometimes I'm crying when I'm praying. You know, I've heard that. And I was like, wow. And I'm so like intuitive because I've had other moments where I'm upset with God, but then I'm like, wow, I can't even relate. But I'm so like eager to know because there's women, like you said, like, they're so upfront with it. They're planning, and they're not getting, they just do. And we live in a world now with social media. It's like, it's in your face. I get it. Like
all day, every day.
Like,
every day. There have
day.
been plenty of people that I've stopped following just because I don't want to put myself in a position of the woe is me. What about me? Why not me? Yeah. And the good thing about where I am right now is that I have other girlfriends who are kind of in the same place that I am.
Okay.
And they have been able to maintain their spirituality and in maintain their relationship with God. Growing up the way I did, before my teens, it wasn't the easiest life, right? Yeah. I've gone through a lot and there's always that saying, God doesn't give you more than you can bear. Yeah. But I promise you on plenty of occasions, I have already said, okay, God, I've had enough.
Right.
I've had my just due. There is no other lesson you can teach me. Yeah. There's nothing else that I want you to kind of give me to bear at this point. I'm at my wit's end.
Yeah.
And, it's been very, very hard. I can't even pray anymore just because I'm like, I just don't understand. Yeah. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
And I went through life with you're not going to be anybody's baby's mother. You're not going to have any children out of wedlock. Like, I'm doing all the things that I've been told that I should be doing and the way it should be done.
Right.
And yet it's like the one thing that you've told me I should be able to do is the one thing I'm not being allowed to do.
Right.
So it's hard.
That's deep. I caught chills.
It's really hard.
That's definitely deep. Because we are told that as women, right? Yeah. It's like you don't even have to, whether you grew up with your mom, your father, or without, it's like women are, that's what it says, right? You're here to multiply. You're here to procreate. It's so telling when it comes out the mouth of another woman, and it's so direct. I mean, Denese, you are so courageous. I don't think you know how much your testimony is going to impact and influence so many women. I think that's the essence of life, because we feel as though, yes, life is supposed to be beautiful, but life is not just beautiful. Life is hard. No. Life is challenging. Life has so much ebbs and flows that sometimes we feel like, even as individuals, right? You could be in your season where you just got a series of bad things happening within a few years of your time. And, I always say to people, because people say, how do you keep the balance and you make everything look? And I said, I feel like I had a lot of my growing pains, like what you said earlier, when I was younger. I feel like I was, although I had a big family and in high school and those things, let me tell you, my parents were going through a divorce at that time. There was so much happening that
I never knew that.
I never came to school and showcased that, I was stressed out, there was so many things that I felt like I saw what transpired in my adulthood, and even like, having the locks. And then when I turned 33, I combed out the locks, and it was just like a lot of like, like you said, just, I felt like I had the good upbringing. And then it was like when my parents divorced, I felt the biggest impact from that. But then when I see my younger sibling and I'm like, I saw his impact from that, I had to say, okay, God, if you give me more years, right, then I would do my best to see if I can uproot myself out of the pain that I'm feeling. And I think you made something stand out to me so eloquently when you said, I didn't even know how to pray again. I remember when I would be upset with God, I would not pray. Mm-hmm. And I found that the more that I would not pray, I would spiral. And when I say spiral, the things that I desired and wanted would not be achievable. And I had realized, like, okay, in order for me to say that I'm keeping the balance or getting centered, I have to restore. I had to restore my relationship with God in a way that it was consistent, because when you don't get to, I got accepted to the HBCUs and all that, and I was on my high horse too. Like, I'm a go. And that wasn't my circumstance. I went from living in a home to not having a home and going back to live with my grandfather. It was a lot of like, what the hell's happening here and why now? But when I see my life now, years later, I have to say, thank you, God. Because I remember the prayers of, if you give me a few more years, if you allow to cover me, and that's the only advice I would just say to you, because one cannot tell someone what to do. And we know adults, we're stubborn. When we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. And when we say we're not, we're not.
We're not.
But if that's something that is that you've benefited from, if you've benefited from that relationship, I always say you don't have to be inside of any building to have a relationship with God. You can pray when you want to, you can speak to God when you're ready, and you can also be consistent enough to say, God, I can't bear anymore. And there is so much testimonies within the book that gives you those parables. And the parables are the life lessons. They are life lessons because you find that, yes, we know some things is manufactured in that book. We know that we got it when our people came to America. But at the same time, there are certain gems that are life lessons. And when it comes to being a woman and, wanting to have the birthing experience as opposed to having somebody else carry it, or, whatever, because I'm sure. Or have you thought about, during those years where you said you kind of went through the feelings, did you ever feel like, I'll ask my sisters? Was that ever a...
No, that was never a thing. And it's funny that you asked that, because my older sister literally asked me this 2 days ago. Have you ever thought about asking one of us to do it for you? Yeah. And I was just like, no.
Yeah.
Why? No. I wouldn't.
I asked that because for my sister, she wanted a girl, and I was the only one that had a girl. Yeah. My older sister went from boy to twin boys, and then Onika had a boy, and it was like, I was like, I want my sisters to have a girl, so I was praying with them. I was like, we're gonna pray this thing out. So it's a blessing to see it. But have you considered it? I mean, what did you say when your sister said that?
No, I was kind of thrown off because I've never actually thought of that being a thing. And truth be told, my sister is older. My oldest, she's older than me. Like, you know,
it doesn't matter. But if she's
but clearly she's, you know,
right.
She has 5. So clearly she's good with that. But it wasn't something that I thought of because Denese does her own thing. Denese takes care of Denese. Like that's just been who I've always been. I'm going to do what I need to do for me. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, maybe I'll think about that when I have no other options.
Yeah.
Or maybe I can consider that when, you know, it's just kind of like that's like a last resort to me.
Okay.
That like having somebody else, even if it's my sister, do it for me. It's something that it would be something to consider when I have no other options. And to be honest with you, for me, I feel like if this doesn't work and if this doesn't happen, then it just means that it's not what's in the plans for my life. And to some degree that is heartbreaking, but I'm a realist. So it's like, you need to come to terms with reality. You can't keep pushing something and keep trying to do something to get to end up with the same result and to end up continuously being disappointed or hurt or, you know, there's no guarantee that would actually work. And it could end up costing me even more at the end of the day financially to go that route, because now I need to cover somebody else's doctor bills and I need to, like, there are additional expenses that come along with that. You know what I'm saying? And I have to be prepared for that. Because I'm the kind of person that if I actually do something for me, I need to make sure you're good. I need to make sure, you know, whatever you need, you got it. And unfortunately, I wasn't born with a silver spoon. Nor have I amassed some great fortune where I could just make these things happen out of thin air. And it's definitely something that is a choice that needs to be a conscious one. It needs to be something that I can put a plan to and be able to execute it. Because it's an investment. It's not just me out here trying to buy a Louis Vuitton bag or, you know what I'm saying? Get a G-Wagon or whatever, something like that. You know, it needs to be a conscious, well thought out process and that I can go from beginning to end, go through without having too many hurdles, because I've had enough hurdles already just for me trying to get from point A to point B. I haven't even forget getting from point A to point Z. I'm just trying to get from A to B
right now.
I'm just trying to get right now. I'm just trying to get from A to B. So, you know, this is one that was well thought out that I'm trying to see through as best I can. And I've actually had to humble myself in order to put myself in a position to ask for help. That's not like, I do what I got to do. Just me. And if I can't do it, then it just means I ain't supposed to. That's just kind of how I've always rolled. You know what I'm saying? But my girlfriend made a very good point. She was like, you need to exhaust all your options before you make the decision to walk away, because this is important to you. And if it's important enough to you, you need to go to whatever lengths you need to go to. And when you get to that point and you realize that it's still not happening, then you can have the conversation with yourself about how do I let go of this dream?
And like I said, in wrapping up, you know, just be a little bit optimistic and receptive, because sometimes I feel like the spiritual gem that comes sometimes in the form of your sister saying that to you. I don't want to speak for God, because I feel like people be like, don't you speak on behalf of God? But I feel like those things to me is more metaphysical as well. It's like you're getting the answers that you kind of said out loud to God, even though you didn't fold your hands and pray. You still are getting a response that says, you know, if you still want it, would you take it as a different alternative, meaning you got it through a different method. And I'm just going to say that because right now we see primarily with, like I said, with Gabrielle Union, the list goes on. There's so much happiness I see with women that are doing other alternatives. When we were growing up, we were told you don't even look to those options, but the babies are still beautiful and things are still flourishing. So I would just say that would be my only tip, because I don't believe that people should tell people what to do. I think people should give them the tools to make the best decisions, to do what they need to do. And we'll end with, like, I love when you talked about, what it is to be humble and await your moment so that you can see what their lasting results is. But I want you to know, I got a good lesson in what it is to be humble, because we know by definition it means to lower oneself or lower one's importance. And I just wanted to say to the audience that sometimes, when you grow up and you hear these words and they say, humble yourself, or God knows how to humble you, it is in the same context of the definition itself. It is about knowing that you can consider yourself high value and one who can achieve and do great things. But when you realize that maybe at this moment you cannot, you then not reduce yourself, but you do accept the fact that, okay, maybe I'm not going to get everything that I want. So it definitely gave me a different outlook on the word humble, because I got a big poster on one of these walls that's like, be humble and be kind. But I'm always reminding people, it's my reminder. That poster is my reminder of when it is to kind of take a rest, take a moment, take a break, reset the clock. Sometimes we need to do that. And in the moment also, Denese, enjoy, have fun, and keep in the balance. Still show and be loving in your relationship, still be that quintessential aunt, still be that person showing up to work, because your impact and our service as humans is about the legacy that's coming up. And sometimes we're not biologically mothers to our own, but we are mothers to many when we mentor, show up, lift, guide, and mentor others. And you're doing that in your business. And I'm really hoping that you see your journey, your personal journey with having a child come true as well. So I would love to have a follow-up with you.
Of course.
Journey. And more like, of course, once a month we do the Girl Chat series as well. So you're more than happy to come on that as well. But it's a great way to just kind of keep you in tune and understand that, sometimes you just need to stay in lifted prayer and lifted spirits. And you got that. I feel
Thank
like
you.
you can do so many great things, and you already are doing it in so many other realms. If you put yourself up against anybody else in any other category, you good. You winning, girl. You winning.
Right.
But right now, this is personal, and I want to be able to support you as well. So definitely, you can email me back that information, and we'll just go from there. But this was wonderful.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for sharing. And I am so happy to have you on. And I thank you for accepting this request to be on. Because people think that people just jump on, no, boo, we got to do things right around here. We got to plan, schedule, and get folks right. And, much love to you in the Bay. I know y'all out there shaking it up in that Midwest. And the link ups is coming. Once they let us come outside, girl, when you touch over here and I touch over there, it's Link Up City. So
exactly. We'll definitely be making it happen.
Any lasting things you want to tell the audience?
You know what? At the end of the day, it is 100% okay to live in your truth, be it that it's glitz and glamour or it's not. And having the courage to kind of speak on something that is true to you and something that, is from the heart is always going to receive positive light, because you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable, right? You're allowing yourself to share your experiences with others. And I just want to say thank you so much, Kaye, for even kind of jumping on me kind of like bringing this to you as a conversation and kind of putting it out there. I appreciate it very, very much. And I will definitely my GoFundMe is Denese's Road to Motherhood. And I will provide you with the link for sure. And after this conversation, I have a lot more confidence in myself to be able to kind of put it out there for others to be able to kind of see and hear about and hopefully support. So thank you. And thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Yes, and thank you. Thank you, guys. We'll be back next week with another episode. You just tuned into Okay Regarding That with my girl, Denese Clother. And you know it's okay regarding all of that. Mwah!